Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to another weekly wrap up where we have some wonderful books to talk about and some controversial books to talk about in my opinion, or how I was feeling about them. First off, I just want to say if I'm a little low energy today, it's because I'm feeling it. I was up like 4 hours ago getting ready to film, and then I had like a headache hit. Not a migraine, I had a headache, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna chill, and I got some other work done. But like, I want to be filming. It's not a matter of like have to, even though like it is. I have a schedule to hit and things to do. But I mean, anyone who has like chronic anything will understand that it's one thing when it gets in the way of your like everyday things you want to do, and then it's another when it gets in the way of what you want to be doing, which is just even more disappointing. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive in. I'm very excited. I'm just excited about today in general because I have a lot of things planned for this Saturday besides just filming this, and you know, we're not going to be held back. So, but again, if I seem a little like low energy, like I'm okay, it's dissipating. I need to stop and take some sips of my aha now and then. But let's go ahead and of course first start out with our shout outs, because we have 3 new fated friends who joined the Book Refuge this week, and I'm so happy to have them. So we have May Woo, we have Read Over Heels with L, and we have Caffeinated Gert, who all joined at the fated friend level. So thank you all for choosing to support the channel. It always just brings my heart so much joy to see more people joining the family here, and we have a lot of wonderful things coming up. You know, there's a lot of fun content coming. Some of it tonight, because tonight I will get to watch the return of Outlander, and I'm so hyped. And this week, like, is a little discouraging because there isn't the hugest crossover anymore between my regular viewers and my Outlander viewers, and my like demographics of who watches my videos actually changes drastically when a season of Outlander is on, because I have a lot of more seasoned viewers. That's a kind way to say it. Whereas my demographic normally runs between, you know, 24 to 40-year-olds, I tend to get a higher amount of like 40 to 80-year-olds, which is always very interesting. And I mean, you know us ladies, we're going to be reading and watching romance no matter what our age, but you know, there's definitely a crowd who's been reading Outlander since before I was born even. So anyway, that's just a little bit behind the scenes magic. You know, I've put up some collaborations with some other channels that we're big fans of Outlander, and it's just always hard because that's where, you know, my first big success I had with this channel was doing Outlander reviews. Like, that's where my channel really took off. But obviously it's been 2 years since we've really had more Outlander, and you know, those people have either moved on or they're, you know, I've made a lot of other new viewers. So when I put out an Outlander video and it like bombs, I have to remember that like the Outlander content is what I do for me. It's never going to go anywhere. People don't like it, I don't really care, but this is a pep talk to remind myself that like all the other stuff that I do I also love, but chatting about Outlander and being able to discuss the show and compare it with the books, like, it's part of the reason why I have a channel to begin with, is because I wanted to do that. So anyway, again, that was a pep talk, and you are not obligated to watch any of my Outlander content, but also know that I have had just a few people being like, why do we care about this? And I'm like, then just skip those videos. Just skip those videos if you don't share the same passion that I do, but they're not going anywhere. They will not be going anywhere, because being able to make that content is something that keeps me motivated. So anyway, enough of that. Let us dive into, I believe we have 13 books to talk about, which is exciting. The first one, which was actually like the last book that I read in February, was Moth by Mayne. This is a recent release for her, and this is book like 5, I think it's book 5, yeah, because there's 4 books and a novella in her Monstrous series. So yeah, these are all gay monster romances, and I binged this series in February, and the newest release came out at the very end of the month, and I gobbled it up. So this one is about Moth, who we've already seen previously. He is a half monster. We knew that about him. And then Charlie, who's someone we've also seen before, he is friends with Hunter from the book Eden, and Charlie has kind of been the third wheel with Eden and Hunter, and he's ready to kind of break out on his own, and he's planning to go back to the military, who we have seen the military, you know, not being so cool for the past few books now. But Charlie, he doesn't know that, you know, and he doesn't know what else to do with himself. And so there is an errand that Charlie and Moth get asked to do in trying to find another character who we know about. Like, there's a lot of that, and so they end up traveling together. Moth has previously pined over a different hero, and that hero is now paired up with someone, so there's lots of like angst in that aspect. But yeah, this is a slow burn between the two of them while they are trying to fulfill this mission that they get sent on. So this was beautiful. I believe I gave this one 4.5 stars. I don't have it on my spreadsheet because it's from February. Hold on. Yes, I gave that one 4.5 stars, and I would say it's like a 3.5 on my spice scale. Because with Lily Mayne's books, it's always like a ways until we get the spice, but then we do, and it's really, really good. This one also, one of our heroes is a virgin. I won't say which one. And so there's lots of like teach me moments in this as well, which is fun. So the next one that I read, okay, I gotta tell a quick story about this. Here we go. So this was actually recommended by a viewer. But I didn't know that because if you don't know, I have a viewer recommendation form, which, by the way, is the #1 way to recommend books to me. Just putting them in my comments or popping off on my Instagram. It's not really good enough to get my attention at this point because I get that literally 15 to 20 times a day someone's recommending a book to me. I get it. That's what I do, is review books. I have a book recommendation form that you can put it into. You don't need to put it in multiple times. I have seen, you know, if I'm not getting around to a book, I've seen the same person put the same book in. Like, it is in the spreadsheet if you've given it to me once, but there are 500 some books in that spreadsheet. So, you know, putting it in there multiple times doesn't help because I delete all copies that get sent. Anyway, side note, you can find that form in my description. It's in my Linktree, or it might even say book recommendation form down there, but otherwise go to the Linktree and it's there. Anyway, but I had heard about a book called, I think it might be Scared to Love, and it is a mafia romance with an older heroine, and now I had not read any of them. Like, I've heard of a couple before, but I've never read one with an older heroine. I then discovered that this was book 3 in a series, and the author recommended that you read her books in order because they're very, like, interlocked with each other. So I was like, cool, I'll start with the first one. This first book is called Condemned to Love by Siobhan Davis. Now, I've read some Siobhan Davis before. It was before or at the very beginning of my Booktube journey, so I don't even know if viewers would know that. But I've read some of her before. I'd also have tried one of her reverse harem series. Y'all know I don't like reverse harems, so I didn't really continue with that at all. But this one was a secret baby mafia romance. And I was intrigued. And this book, it actually has like 3 different time parts, but the first part is just like the prologue where our heroine is 13 and the hero is 20 or 21, and he's dating her older sister, who's a total bitch to her and doesn't like her and kind of knows she has a crush on her boyfriend. And then this interaction we see is actually the last time our heroine sees the hero for 8 years. So then we skip forward and she's turning 21, you know, and now he is like almost 30, and she has no idea where he went. He just disappeared from her sister's life, from her life, never saw him again. She's in Vegas with her friends celebrating her 21st birthday, and she ends up getting roped into a dangerous situation because one of her friends is an idiot. Yes, one of her friends is an idiot and gets her into a dangerous situation, and where she is kind of being kidnapped by the mob now to be a prostitute. Well, not a prostitute, to be a sex slave for them for the night. And our hero, Ben, the reason he disappeared is that he found out he was the bastard son of a mafia don. And when that guy's legitimate son died, he searched out his bastard son to help with the family. So that's why he disappeared at 21. Anyway, heroine doesn't know that. She's getting brought into this situation where she's going to be raped by the mafia, and Ben recognizes her. She recognizes Ben. He plays it off like he is the one who owns her, and he would really like to fuck her, and he is able to get her away from the guy, but only if he is the one who rapes her. So it doesn't end up being a rape because Sierra really wants him to do this, and so he's like, well, you have to pretend that I'm hurting you though, because otherwise this guy won't let us go. So they do this. Then when he rescues her from there, they end up having like a whole like weekend fuck fest with each other. But then, you know, he's giving into his like desire to want to be with her, but he knows that they can't be together, and he doesn't have room to love anyone, and blah blah blah, whatever his reasons are, because he's in the mafia and he doesn't want her to be a part of it. So he is really mean to her, says that he was really happy he got a taste of her, but now he's done and she's hurt, and she goes home, then finds out she's pregnant. Now, I would have been okay if she never went back to talk to him again. I would have been okay with that, because what's my rule? Secret baby is okay if the man is a mafia or a killer or anything. The woman wanting to protect her child supersedes this for me. But she does one better. She tries to go talk to Ben. She goes to New York where she knows he works, and she gets there and she ends up seeing him do something horrible. And she realizes that he wasn't just doing business with the mob as a businessman. He is the mob. And so she goes back home and never tells him because she saw him murder someone. So in my opinion, she is forgiven for not telling him about the baby. And then we fast forward 6 years, and he happens to be back in her town for a funeral of someone else. And he ends up finding out that, oh my, I have a 5.5-year-old son, and you didn't try to tell me, and you think you're going to keep my kid from me. Hell no, I'm going to take you and my kid, and you're mine. And you're going to be my wife. I need a wife anyway. And now I have an heir and all these things. And our heroine is like, hold up. You are with the mob. You're a fucking murderer. I think not. And so then we have this butting of heads. And so I liked it because there was a lot of righteous anger on his part, but also he, you know, when she's like, no, you're a part of the mob. Why would I want my child included? And he's like, it's my kid anyway. And I grew up without a dad. How could you do that to my kid? And so there's lots of this back and forth. For me, though, they were both right because I see his point of view. He knows that, I mean, he's fucking wealthy. He could be a good dad, but also, yes, my child will be in danger. So I like it because they both are right and they're both a little wrong. In my opinion, Ben's a little more wrong than Sierra is because what happens once he gets around her, dangerous things. So anyway, but I gave this book 5 stars. I listened to the audiobook. I really enjoyed it. I gave this one 5 stars. It is a 3.5 on the spice scale. There is trigger warnings for obviously attempted sexual assault in the beginning, and then there's a lot of violence in this. We need to move it along because girls got a lot of books to talk about. All right, we stayed in the mafia realm actually because a very anticipated book of mine came out, which for some reason I totally forgot to put in my TBR because the woman never warns us about these things. Ferreira by T.L. Swan came out. Yes, this is the kind of follow-up to the Italian. You know, some people will say different, but as a T.L. Swan fangirl and someone who has been reading her books for 4 to 5 years, I can strongly tell you that, yes, you should have read the Italian before you read this book, okay? Yes, it will retread the ground for you, but I don't think you will fully understand the landscape of the mafia world and the relationships if you have not read the Italian first. Even though, of course, the author's not going to say that this is book 2 in a series, because why would they? Why would they be honest about those things? But this is more than an interconnected standalone, okay? This is a direct follow-up from what happens in the Italian. Even though it's a different couple, what happens in the Italian directly affects what happens in Ferreira. Because now we have, I think, Giuliano, who is the bastard son of a mafioso. However, he didn't know that he was a bastard. He thought that his parents were happily together. And then when his father dies, he finds out that his mother was actually the other woman. And though she had been in a long-term relationship with her father, he was in a, mafia arranged marriage with another woman. And when his older brother dies, he now is given the reins of the family. And oh yeah, that girl Francesca that he's been falling for, she's actually his half sister. Or so we think. Okay, so now we're going to get to the issues that I had with this book. But let's talk about the good things first, okay? The good things, this is T.L. Swan. It's crack. This book is very easily readable. It keeps you wanting to turn the pages. It's a telenovela that you can't put down. That is how I describe her books in general. Even more so her books that aren't the Mont-like ones, because I do say that the Miles High Club is a bit more heavily edited and she is kept a little more contained by the Amazon team, and we are thankful for that. We are thankful for that. But when you read her indie published books, anything fucking goes, okay? They're wild, they're crazy. This book spends a lot of time with them as children, so that's why I said, it's retreading ground that happens in the Italian, because Francesca and Giuliano's relationship is happening kind of behind the scenes at the end of the Italian. And at the end of the Italian is when they find out that they are half siblings after they have been fucking each other a few times. Okay? Yep. We're here. However, this book won't have those trigger warnings or be banned from Amazon because, number one, we know they're not going to actually be related. I'm sorry if that's a spoiler to anyone. Sorry, not sorry. But I know that it is easier to convince people to read a book that it's they think they're related than for them actually to be related, because you would not get that idea at all from the blurb of this book, and I prefer not to surprise people with possible incest, because you would not know that from just reading the back of Ferreira. And you would know that if you'd read the Italian, but there'll be people who just dive into Ferreira and not have any idea about this. Okay, I'm talking in circles, I know. I had a lot to say, okay? Because two main problems. One, it spends too much time in the past retreading ground that if you've already read the Italian, you would know. And I know some people won't listen to me and they won't read the Italian first, but they need to. So my thing is, don't include so much of this backstory. Tell people to read the Italian first. Just tell them to read the Italian first. Because we spend so much time with them sneaking around and falling in love when we know they're going to find out that they are related, that they had the same dad. And then we have a time jump where he has, distanced himself from her mother, who, has just treated him horribly because he's the child of the other woman. And she has been trying to live her life. She has a boyfriend. She's been trying to live her life for the last 10 years. And now Giuliano and her have run into each other again. And one thing leads to another. And they're like, fuck it, we want to be together, even if we're half siblings. Which is ick. It's icky. It's icky. And this book is not considered taboo like Kay Webster or any of those things. And that's because, and I reiterate, there was not 1 second of this book where I believed that they were actually going to be related. Not for 1 second. But guess how far in the book it took before we moved past that? 73%. before we're confirming that they're not related. And I know I'm spoiling some things, but that's the crux of the matter why I had a problem with this, is it's like T.L. Swan. It's not a surprise to us that they're not related. It is not a shocker. It is not a revelation, because there's no way in hell that they would actually be half siblings and you would have them be together and have it be an HEA. There's just not. You're not Kay Webster. We're not writing The Wild. We're not writing Hale. That's not what this book is. This wouldn't be able to be the top of the Amazon bestseller if these two are half siblings. It is not possible. So therefore, spending 75% of the book with them, struggling with them being half related, then fucking each other anyway, and then feeling guilty about it, and then questioning their parents to find out if they're really, like, did someone cheat on the other person, and so we're not really, like, we spent the whole book trying to discover this mystery that I didn't need to know. Because I'm like, guess what? I don't care who cheated. I know you're not related. So somebody did. Somebody's the cheater. T.L. Swan turns that into the big mystery of it, is like, who cheated? Well, they're all cheaters, because literally it was the wife and the other woman who both know about each other. But not only was the father just a fucking fucker who fucked whoever he wanted to, he also had these two women who loved him and who were more or less like put up with the fact that the other existed. He also fucked whoever he wanted. I know I'm getting very heated about this, but I was extremely disappointed because I'd been waiting for this book for a very long time, knowing that I'm like, okay, they're not going to be related. We're not going to deal with that. And then it was 75% of the book with us wondering if they were related. So I still gave this book 4 stars, and it's 3.5 on the spice scale. Obvious trigger warnings is incest. I mean, it's not. It's not. But the thing why I put that as a trigger warning is that they fully believe it. So you're reading the perspective of people who believe that they're fucking their sibling. And to me, that's a trigger warning that needs to go out there. And we're going to move along. But I'm extremely disappointed that that is the best that T.L. Swan could do with this one, was to make 75% of the plot be about, are we or aren't we? Guess what? She actually already did that too. She has an entire series about cousins who fuck each other. And who think they're related for 3 books, but are still together because they're cousins. And we're like, cool. So, all right, moving along. So then I read Forbidden to Love, which is the next book in this, what's it even called? The Marquez, I forgot what the series is called or whatever. Now, this one I did not love as much as the first one. Remember, I gave the first one 5 stars. I gave this one 3 stars. And there's 2 big reasons for this, and longtime viewers will not be surprised. One, this one has a huge time slip because we spend 60% of the book while they are children. And there's also rampant cheating that happens in this one. And I'm just getting tired of the mafia being a bunch of sluts, okay? Stop it. And I'm talking about the men, not the women. I'm talking about the men. But honestly, the woman in this one too. So this one is like a second chance romance, brother's best friend. We know that these two are in love with each other from the first one. And again, this is another case of like, this author actually says you should read these books in order because there's interlocking storylines. So I'm like, okay, we're going to be picking up where we left off. No, we went back to when the heroine was 17 and she's going to be forced into an arranged marriage, but she's in love with her brother's best friend, who is also one of her father's soldiers, and the man she's supposed to marry is very abusive, and he basically wants to start raping her before they even get married, and all that drama is happening. She ends up having an affair with this brother's best friend, and then because she ends up pregnant, she knows that both her and her lover would be killed, so she agrees to the arranged marriage she's supposed to have, and she's in a miserable marriage for 15 years. And then we skip back to the present time, where there's a lot of drama and politics happening in the mafia world, and she's still in love with this other guy, and he's still pining over her, but her husband's still alive. Like, I thought this was a, like a widowed situation. No, he's still alive. He's actively in love with someone else, and she's actively in love with him. So they're cheating the whole time. Did not like that we spent 60% in the past. Did not like that there was like cheating on both of their parts. Not a fan. And then there was trigger warnings for coerced abortion, attempted assault, violence, and cheating. So was not a fan of this one. So now I'm very weary to go into book 3, because is this going to be another one where we're in the past a bunch? Because both of the previous 2, we had lots of time in the past. In the first one, it made sense. In the second one, it did not. And it was so much of the book in the past. And I just hated that. So anyway. All right, moving on to something a bit more fun. I got to read an arc of Taste by Melanie Harlow. This comes out on the 7th. This comes out on the 7th of March. This is book 7 in her Cloverleaf Farms book, but it's like book 2 in kind of the like new generation of Cloverleaf. This one is about Gianni and Ellie. And Gianni, I believe his parents are the parents from, I can't remember who her parents are. I know that Ellie, her parents are the parents from like Forked or something, or French. I don't know. Either way, their sets of parents are from books that I like aren't my favorite ones. So I was just like, whatever, it's cool. There's people that we know. It's fine. This one is a bit of a foodie. The hero is like a chef. The heroine is trying to become like a food blogger. And so she has this event set up where she's going to get to kind of show off her skills. They have been like kind of childhood enemies. Kind of, he is in love with her, but he's really teasing. And so she thinks that he hates her, but really he just doesn't know how to share his feelings. They end up locked in a motel together for 2 nights during a snowstorm. This is a small town. There is a surprise pregnancy in this one, forced proximity, one night stand, road trip. It has a bunch of these fun tropes. This was really sweet. I gave it 4 stars, and it is a 3 on the spice scale. The biggest issues with this one is that Melanie Harlow kind of does the same argument every time. And I know I bring this up. So if you are ever going to like read a bunch of her books at once, you might get annoyed with this. If you're only reading one at a time spread out, it could be really fun. Because I always enjoy when I read one of her books. They are a fun time. But the argument, the third act conflict, always the same. Like, I can't point out one that's unique in that respect. So yeah, I'm saying that with a little bit of shade, because this is an author I've been reading for quite a few years now, and I have very fond memories of some of her books. And then I get these new books and I want to be so excited, and then I'm like, you're just telling me the same story you've told me 100 times before. All right, then I read an arc of The Rogue's Last Letter by Daria Vernon, and Daria Vernon is a friend of the channel. I don't know if she watches my videos, but I know she sees me on Instagram. This is a second book in her series. So this one comes after The Highwayman's Folly. This one is a second chance romance. There are also letters written. There's a class difference, and there's also a mystery. Our hero is one of the men who'd been accused of like treason because he'd been a part of a mutiny, which is why Reese in the first book was an outlaw. They were outlaws because of this mutiny. And he now works for Bow Street, and there is someone trying to kill him. And our heroine, her name is Allison, his name is Harry, and she is a lady, and they had written letters to each other, and he's trying to stay away from her because he doesn't want her to get hurt, and he also knows he probably won't be able to be with her because of their class difference. And Allison really doesn't want anything to do with that nonsense coming out of his mouth. So she's trying to help him solve who's trying to kill him. So this book was good. It was a very slow burn. There was a lot of characters involved that I didn't know who they were, and there was a lot of trying to solve the mystery. So if you really love like a cozy mystery and you want to mix it with a historical, this could be a lot of fun. I actually put as a trigger warning because I was feeling really salty when I was reviewing this. There is no less than 4 scenes of cock blocking, of coitus interruptus, of she gets hers, he doesn't get his scenes in this book. And that was at least 2 too many, maybe 3 too many for me, because it just ends up being, this isn't just building tension, you're just teasing me. And I'm not a big fan of that. It's one thing if each tease is like building the tension between the two of them, but it more so was like, oh, we're fooling around. Are they going to get to do it this time? Nope. Okay, moving on. And so it starts to get boring when you do that every time. And I'm just being honest. I know I'm a horny girl. I know that not everyone will agree that they're fine with revving the engines and not actually going anywhere, but I'm not okay with it when it's 4 times of that and then only 1 scene where they actually get to fuck each other. So it's like, no, like even that out for me a little bit. I'm in a sassy mood today. I know. This was still a beautiful book. I really love Daria's writing. Her prose is beautiful. There was a lot of really beautiful just scenes in this. Like there's one where there's like fireworks going off while there's a cunnilingus scene. That was pretty brilliant. There's some fun stuff. Next, I read a couple little quickies. So I mentioned this in my story. There was about 30 authors who gave away, who still are giving away these little like shorts. So like Sierra Simone, Serena Akeroyd, Jade West, Jenika Snow, like they had these little shorts that they were giving away. And so you could go to, I can't remember the website. You literally will need to go to either Sierra Simone or Serena Akeroyd, look for their post and they have like the link. I think it's not through BookFunnel, it's through somebody, but they had a bunch of these and I downloaded like 7 of them and I read 2 of them so far. One of them was The King by Jenika Snow, which I was very excited to read. I heard she was going to do this because this is a prequel to the Lycan series. So this is about the like head couple, like the parents of a lot of the Lycans. It is Luna, who is a vampire who has just turned 18. She's just become like a woman and she's going on this trip to like show her independence or whatever. So she's going on a trip through Europe or whatever. And then our hero, his name is Banner, and he is a Scottish Lycan. He's the werewolf king, the Lycan king, and he is her mate, and they end up running across each other, and he's like, you're my queen, you're my mate, and it's about their first interactions. And then how her brother Adrian, who is the hero of Bite Marks, he had actually been following her on this trip to make sure she was safe, and he is trying to interfere with her getting with Banner, and they're not too happy about that. So this was super fun. 4 stars, 3.5 on the spice scale, very spicy, very fun. I always love those books because they're both always virgins, because the heroes, no matter how old they live to be, their sexual, like, organ, I don't know what else to say, only awakens for their mate. So they don't sleep with anyone else. They're never horny for everyone else. They're not even, like, masturbating before they meet their woman, and I love that. Then there was Filthy Richer by Serena Akeroyd, and this was a short that revisited Owen and Anessa, who are one of my favorite couples in the Filthy Feckers. This takes place 7 years later. They're about to have their first baby, and Owen is kind of regressing with his OCD. He's feeling very stressed about having a baby coming into their life, and I just thought it was a very unique little peek into their life, how it's going and everything. And, you know, just kind of the struggles that Owen has come up and how Anessa is helping him deal with them. And of course it was super sweet. So this wasn't even really like a marriage in trouble. Like, they're not having serious issues as a couple. It's more about like Owen's like mental health, to be real, which was a really cool thing to see in a mafia story, because you don't always get to see that. So that was 4.5 stars for me and 3 on the spice scale. Okay, then we read a doozy, and I'm going to try not to be too overblown about it because I was very upset by this book. And at first I gave it 4 stars, but then the more that I like talked through it, it became a 3-star for me. So that is Once More My Darling Rogue by Lorraine Heath. We'll put it up here because I don't want to hold it the whole time. This is book 2 in, I think it's The Scandalous Gentleman of St. James. No. Yes. The Scandalous Gentleman of St. James, because there's the Scoundrels of St. James. I don't know. Either way, this series is like about the children of the heroes from the Scandalous of St. James. So the hero in this one, Drake, he's the adopted son of the Duke and Fanny, which is from one of the books previously. And then our heroine, she's friends with one of his adopted sisters or friends. I don't know. But Ophelia Fee, she is seen as being very haughty and bitchy, and she treats Drake very poorly because he is of a lower class, and she'll kind of oh, servant boy, give me a champagne, and she'll kind of be a bitch to him. Okay, so you're not supposed to like her that much. And then Drake angry kisses her one night, and she slaps him and walks away. And then later that night he finds her in the river, and she has been knocked out. She's freezing. He brings her to his home, and he's planning to go get her family because, he knows her. And he gets her warmed up, and when she awakens, she doesn't remember who he is. And he decides to get a little bit of petty revenge for the night. He's planning to get this revenge for the night. And in the morning, he's going to go get her family. So he tells her that she's actually his housekeeper because she doesn't really remember anything. She doesn't think she's a housekeeper, but what does she know? She doesn't remember. So she starts asking him lots of questions about this, and he's just oh yeah, I recently hired you because I don't have one, and blah, 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 blah. So this doesn't go on for just the night. This goes on for days, where he keeps her as his housekeeper. This lady, and he keeps her away from her family and friends. And there are people eventually looking for her. There aren't people looking for her immediately because of things we find out that a member of her family kind of knows what happened to her and is hoping that she died or something. But her friends eventually realize that she's gone. Friends who are his friends. But anyway, he keeps this a secret because they're starting to fall for each other. Well, he is her master and she is his housekeeper. Now, I've been told by a friend that this is kind of a retelling of Overboard, which is a movie from the 80s or 90s or whatever, which sounds cute. This has a movie. I can imagine this being pretty cute or whatever. But I'm going to spoil some things for you because I really got to tell you why I was upset about this. So eventually they sleep together while she doesn't have a memory. And the hero, with his magical penis, is able to discover she's not a virgin. And he's surprised by this. He's not immediately disgusted or anything because after all, he's not a virgin and whatever. But he slept with her. And then the next day, which of course is the day he's going to tell her who she is, their mutual friend shows up, and she remembers instantly who she is upon seeing the face of her friend. And she's immediately horrified upon realizing that Drake kept this from her and slept with her while she didn't remember who he was, because he knew. There's not a question, there's not a gray area. He knew that Lady Ophelia, if she was in possession of her faculties, if she knew who she was, she would not have slept with him. Her reasoning for that may be suspect. It's more has to do with her not feeling good enough or feel whatever, but she would have never said yes to him, ever. So that is not conformed consent, and in my opinion, that is assault to me. But it goes up another step, and this is why I'm really spoiling this. The reason why her direct family was not looking for her is because the night that she fell in the river, she actually escaped from her uncle. An uncle who has been raping her since she was 17 and molesting her since she was 13. So she is a literal child sexual assault victim. And the reason why she's such a bitch is because she's bitchy to people because it's the only thing she can control is how she treats other people. Is there a great reason for being a bitch? No, it is not. It's not. But now the hero confronts her. Well, he doesn't confront her. He goes to apologize and like throw himself on her mercy. And he's put a few pieces of the puzzle together. And he says, you weren't a virgin. Has your uncle assaulted you? Is that why you're trying to get away? And he pieces together what happened to her. And then he becomes her knight in shining armor and beats the shit out of her uncle and all these things. And I'm sorry, the grovel's not good enough. This hero did not tell her who he was, knowing that if she knew, she would not have slept with him. And I'm kind of disgusted. And I don't care if it's a retelling of Overboard. Making her the survivor of childhood assault and then having her be assaulted by the hero, that's too much. Like, it needed to be one or the other. Either he needed to not have slept with her until she knew, or don't make her a victim of childhood assault so that it isn't insult upon injury, you know? Because he raped a rape victim. I don't know what to say here. And I'm just kind of disappointed in this as a Lorraine Heath book. So, moving on. Then I read A Perfect Gentleman by Candace Camp. This was a viewer recommendation. It was on my March TBR. I listened to the audio on this. This is A Marriage in Trouble. This is about American heiress Abby, and then she's forced to marry Graham Parr, who's the Earl of Montclair. Her father forces this marriage to happen. Upon their wedding night, Graham is like, I'm never going to sleep with you and give you an heir because your father forced me into this marriage and you are just as complicit as him. Abby is like shocked that he's so cruel to her and also that her father had done this. And so she goes back to America and lives her life for 10 years. Now, 10 years later, she comes back to town. She's the belle of the ball. She's absolutely gorgeous, and she wants a baby. So she's going to have a sex deal with her husband. There's also a mystery about how things got so sticky between their families back when, and this was delightful. I give this one 4.5 stars, the audiobook. I was not a fan of the narrator, by the way. He was very, shouty. There was lots of yelling on the narration. Didn't love that, but I love this book. Great recommendation. Then I just real quick read The Wicked Witch of Keirgspiel by S.L. Prater. I actually won this book in a giveaway for Pharaoh Feb, and I wanted to read it. It was less than 200 pages long, and this one is about Erin Green, who is a witch, and she's trying to find freedom from her uncle, because if you're a witch in this world, you need to be married to a priest to kind of help suppress your free-spirited self, and she doesn't want to get married, and so Chancellor Wren, who is a priest and a professor, he agrees to kind of look out for her and help her keep from having to get married. So, weird setup, weird world. I did not hate this book. I want to read another book that's kind of set in this world, but it also wasn't explained super well, and it had some pretty traumatic things that I feel weren't delved into enough. But there was some fun witchy stuff. I gave this one 3.5 stars, and it was 2.5 on the spice scale. There is previous domestic assault, domestic violence, and there was loss of a pregnancy for trigger warning for this one. Oh, we're almost done. My throat is feeling it. I'm telling you. I read The Potion Master's Baby by Snape's Goddess. This, of course, was a fanfic. This one was Severus and Hermione. This one was very unique in what I've read because this isn't a student-teacher one. They are both teachers at Hogwarts. Hermione is 30. Snape is 50, 51. She wants to be artificially given a baby, and so she has found some donor sperm that she wants to use. There's a mix-up somehow, and she ends up getting Severus's sperm, and she gets pregnant. And once she's pregnant, she is told by a healer that we were storing Snape's sperm and your sperm or their donor sperm in the same place, and now you're pregnant. So there are reasons why this happened. It is not as simple as a mix-up, but we won't get into that. And so Snape is like, well, are you going to get rid of it? And she's like, no, I really wanted to be pregnant. I'm going to keep it. And he's like, so you're just going to have my kid and it's going to be around, you're going to raise it at Hogwarts and I'm going to have to see it and you. And she's like, this is why I didn't want to know who the father was, but I'm not going to abort my baby to get pregnant with another baby. Like, I'm not going to do it. So he's a little bit disgruntled by that. Mostly because, you know, he doesn't think that he would be a good father, and he doesn't want to see a baby that is his and not be able to take care of it. You know, it's a little bit of those vibes of like, you know, what if Harry had been his? And it's that like seeing Harry Potter around and being like, you know, I was never able to like have him, you know, have a kid. Anyway, that's the vibes that I got from this. But they end up, like, being around each other more and more. Hermione has really bad morning sickness, and he actually makes her, like, a potion to help with that. Really cute. And he ends up, like, let's date and see if we want to be together, because maybe we could raise this kid together. So it's cute. It's actually kind of a slow burn. This one wasn't the spiciest I read, but it was a really cute. And I gave this one 4.5 stars, and it's 2.5 on the spice scale. And there's no triggers. Like, this was just delightful. And I love in this, like, Hogwarts as a whole just loves them as a couple and loves their baby once their baby is born. Like, all the other teachers just love having a baby around, and, like, even, like, Filch makes like a cradle for them as like a gift. Like, oh, I teared up. It was adorable. And the last book that I finished last night, I've continued trying some more Karla Sorensen, and I read Focused, which is the first in the Ward sister books. I realized I should have started with the Washington Wolves. It was an accident, but that's okay. I will keep reading these. So this one is a enemies to lovers. It's a sports romance. It's a workplace romance. Our heroine and hero used to live by each other. And when she was only 16, she actually climbed in his window and they started like making out and like they were going to have sex. He did not know that she was 16, and he was in his like, I don't know how old he was, but he was in college, so it's not like he was old, but I think he was like 18 or 19, and did not know she was 16, and she like got him in a lot of trouble with her brother and his dad, and fast forward how many years now, she works for the Washington Wolves, and he's just been drafted there, and there's this film crew that's going to be following him around for this Netflix documentary thing, and she gets assigned to like help make sure PR goes well. So yeah, this one was cute. It was a slow burn. I listened to this one on Anyplay. It was a bit of a grumpy sunshine as well. Yeah, I give it 4 stars, and it was 2 on the spice scale. So there we go. I made it through. I need to take another nap now because my head is really starting to pinch me again. But thank you so much for watching this. Thank you for the new channel members for joining. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that bell to get notified when I upload. And I will see you next time. Bye.